Hello there guys, it's Joey and today's video is about the Nordic goddess Frigga. It's spelt Frigga, but I think it's pronounced Frigga. I'm not 100% certain on pronunciation. I'm going to say Frigga. If it's wrong, I apologise, but that's kind of how it goes in my head, I guess. And this is a video talking a little bit about the goddess because it was requested that I create a spell set for her, and I had some very interesting experiences working through this particular energy, and she is the all-mother of the Nordic pantheon, and I'm going to talk a little bit about energies that came through. There were some quite strong messages with this one. I find that the Nordic are quite talkative to me. I wonder whether it's because of the similarity in feel to a lot of the Celtic pantheon. I wonder if it's quite closely bound, and my sister is quite interested and intrigued by the Nordic pantheon as well, and I just wonder if it's a very similar feel and it's easier to come into conjunction with those energies and have some really quite overt interactions with these energies as you go ahead and create something in their honour for someone else, and it becomes like a little bit of an opening up of communication, if you will, when you create these items for specific gods and goddesses. So the request came in and it was about this goddess Frigga, and there's this hesitation as to whether the goddess Frigga is a separate deity to the goddess Freyja. And I was having a look at some of the mythos, because Frigga's myths are a little bit, she's kind of one of these goddesses which for some reason doesn't have a huge amount of prominence, and you know, the people are saying, well, she's always there, but specific myths seem a little bit lackluster, and whenever that happens I'm like, oh good, because the minute there's obscurity, there's the permission to sort of just feel your way through something, and you don't come up against sort of these boundaries that have been put in place, and then you kind of have to feel your way around myths and whether or not your current feeling and your current interpretation aligns with that, and whether or not it's just that times have changed and the myths have, you know, been retold and retold and retold and something's been lost, or something, you know, interpretation. But there was this debate as to whether or not Frigga and Freyja are the same goddess, because they have a lot of the same attributes. Now, at the same time, I've been asked to make a spell salt in the end for Freyja, and they feel different to me. I'm going to try and explain this as easy as possible. I do have some notes, by the way, about who Frigga is, but I just kind of wanted to do the touchy-feely bit first while it's at the front of my mind. And there's this kind of, in the myth, that they are presented as two separate deities in some circumstances, but there seems to be kind of a meshing and a watering together at some point. And so I was kind of like, well, they don't, it doesn't feel the same to me. Freyja, I was trying to think about how to put this without it being offensive to either goddess, because I don't think there's, you know, one is better than the other or anything like that. I think they just feel different. Freyja feels more like a maiden-esque energy, and Frigga feels more like a mother energy, and Frigga is the all-mother, so I guess it makes sense. And Freyja feels kind of, see, I'm going through words, but I'm like, no, that doesn't work, because, like, she's passionate. Yeah, but she's passionate too. And she's more maybe lascivious, maybe, but maybe that's, I mean, that's not a negative term necessarily. Okay, there's a very definite sexuality and war energy to Freyja. And they both have love elements to them, and I was kind of reading around both, and one person who's, I think it was a blog post that I was reading, was saying yes, but love covers so much that just saying, yeah, well, they're both love goddesses doesn't, it's kind of giving a broad term, and saying, yeah, but, and Frigga has a motherly love to her as well, as her marriage, but she's not shrinking violet by any sense of the word. In fact, she's incredibly dominant, incredibly royal and regal and commanding, as is Freyja, but Freyja's has a little bit more of a volatility to it, maybe that kind of war, that kind of aggressor a little bit more, whereas I think Frigga feels a little bit more strategic. Like, you're not going to, if you mess with her, you'll be in, you know, trouble. But it doesn't feel the same kind of combat style, if you will, if that makes sense. That these two different, I feel like they are two different goddesses, and I'm sure there are going to be people that disagree with that and feel that they are either aspects of one another or something. But to me, they just felt very unique. And we're going to get into too much information time here, but every single time I start doing something for Freyja, I end up bleeding. And I mean cut self-bleeding. I haven't actually completely finished the salts yet, and I'm hesitant to do it because the minute I'm do it, I'm like, yeah, I'll be bleeding within 5 minutes on my finger somewhere. Every time I've made stuff for Freyja, she demands blood sacrifice. So for when I started with Frigga, time of the month, monthly flow started, and I was like, well, there you go, blood sacrifice, slightly different way about it, but there we go. And it's that kind of draws the parallel, I think, between the goddesses. Like Freyja's like, you will give me my blood sacrifice, and yeah, and then Frigga, sorry, is within within the cycles, within those natural cycles, and there is a blood sacrifice, and it's naturally offered and good. So there you go. I'm going to read to you a little bit about the notes and feelings and interactions I had whilst working with the energy of goddess Frigga, the Nordic All-Mother, known as Odin's wife. Her name means love or beloved one, goddess of civilization, hearth, home, destiny weaver, and seer. She has a very strong magical element to her. The blessing of Frigga is still invoked for birthing women. A white candle is lit in order to see them safely through the birth. Frigga birthed Baldir, the Shining One, at the longest night, Yule or winter solstice. And there are of course parallels here with the standardized sun god birth at Yule story. So the kind of, I call it the standard pagan story. Oh, the sun god is born at Yule, and that kind of fits within the standardized wheel of the year. And it's interesting then how you can see all the different sun gods that have been birthed to the All-Mothers in different pantheons, in different spiritual paths, in different religions even, and you can see the cross over between the cultural retellings of these stories. So I thought that was interesting. Frigga was said to have won 2 bets against Odin through cunning. Her handmaiden was a little bit shifty with one, and there was something to do with the phrasing of words and the turning of a bed for another, with Frigga outwitting Odin. I'm gonna just let that sink in a minute here. The All-Father, and she won bets against him. She is a goddess of being and knowledge. She spins the future but speaks not of it. My interactions with her, she came across as responsible, respectable, strong in her sovereignty, very commanding, victory through wits and reason, far-sightedness in magical gifts, but also in strategy. Frigga feels as though she is a goddess that keeps. She keeps order, she keeps structure, she keeps lineage, she keeps marriage. She is passionate and humorous but has a resilient strength, perhaps more so than an explosive strength, and that was perhaps the difference that I felt. Her sort of resilient and enduring strength, and in the Nordic myth associated with her and her son, she actually seeks promises from everything on earth not to harm her son, but did not get the promise from mistletoe, mistletoe energy spirit, for it seeing it being such a little plant that couldn't harm her beloved son. And Loki goes and finds the one thing that can harm him, and there are two retellings of the myth, and in one Baldur dies as a result of Loki's trickery, and in the other Frigga weeps and the berries turn a different colour, and that sort of resurrects him. I think the more ancient version is that he dies from it, though, from what I can tell of the telling of the myths. So, have I got all my notes? So there definitely is a goddess of the hearth and home element to Frigga, but it feels more regal than that. It feels a little bit more of a one's home is one's castle, taking pride in one's appearance as well, but it's one's surroundings and sort of the, okay, I'm getting a message that one's outer world and should be orderly and welcoming and honourable in order to reflect one's inner world. So one's court reflects one's state of mind. Wow, so chaos in my case then. But there is this kind of civilised energy to Frigga, who very much runs things and knows how to run things and knows how to be in charge. Her and Odin are basically a power couple. To me, they feel very equal, they feel very balanced, and I think that they feel very passionate about one another as well. They're basically a true balanced marriage, and there isn't one that is perhaps more I don't know, prominent than the other. For example, in your Greek mythology, the retelling and the retelling and the retelling of it has Hera being quite shrewish because of Zeus's massive infidelities, and I always didn't feel very comfortable with that as a forefront representation of marriage, and I felt like the retelling of the myth had got kind of perverted somewhere, and perhaps that wasn't how it started out and such. But when you sort of hear stories about that Frigga can outwit her husband through bets, and you just know that they're equally matched. They're both incredibly all-knowing, all energy, and he is the all-father, and very much so that she is the all-mother. And I love that. I love that kind of good harmony within a marriage, because that's, to me, is what a marriage should be. The coming together of two equally matched individuals, equally matched in wit and splendour. I'm getting that in my head as well. Okay. They are, you know, they're both glorious, and they come together and they're both powerful and energetic, and this wonderful meshing and coming together. And, you know, there isn't a kind of suppression of the female, and there isn't a there isn't a diminishing of either of these deities at all within the sort of marriage. It feels like a very balanced thing. It's wonderful. It's wonderful energy. I love the fact that she won bets against Odin. I thought it was hilarious, actually. I was like, you go, you absolutely go. I really liked the energy of her having a staff to do with weaving of destiny. I really enjoyed the idea that I came across quite frequently with reading around people who had worked with her about her destiny side of things. The energies of that she knew, and she took that knowledge, and she very rarely would act on that knowledge. And the only story that I noticed. There may be more, because obviously I didn't go into huge depths, was the story of her son, where she acted on foresighted knowledge that, you know, of his death, of him being harmed. But otherwise, she didn't speak of destiny and what she'd seen. And there was suggestion as well that she was feared because she could actually influence destiny in the future. So there's an interesting little tidbit around whether or not she could not only see but influence, and she had magical abilities and sort of control over, I forgot what, I don't think she's actually named as a caster, a caster of magical energies that I have seen, but it's possible. Farsighted in magical gifts, but also strategy. So there you go. Some very odd sounds coming from outside now, so I think we will finish up with the actual items that were requested for the goddess Frigga, and a few of these I'm going to keep up on store because I really like them. So first, the Herbal Blend. Now the Herbal Blend is unassuming, but it smells deeply earthy. I hope you can see well enough. It has a really wonderful clean, earthy scent. It's very grounding. It's very much about home and hearth, and it's very much about the energetic cleansing of a space in order to help to make it a home. We talked a little bit about her orderliness, her civilized court, and that's what the Herbal Blend reflects. There is a energy to it to, you know, get rid of all the negative funk and get rid of all the chaos and bring it into a nice harmonious energetic place. So then we have the Spell Oil. This is the Spell Oil. I've actually used the little charm on here as well, which I hope you can see, because I found this lovely, they are actually gold. It's looking a bit bronze on my camera. It'll probably be fine by the time the rendering's gone because the light's odd in here. But a crown for her sovereignty, for she is the queen. She is the all-mother, and she is very in charge, very, there you go. And this kind of has a, there we go, there's the light, there we are. It does have an earthy feel, but it's a little bit more ethereal than that. There is a beauty element here, and a strength, and a destiny. It's just all about honouring her, and it just, I love it. I loved how it came out. And interestingly enough, one of the ingredients wasn't in there originally, and she was like, I would like this. Now, before I actually finish that, I meant to say at the beginning of the video, with her involvement, is the day that I started this, there was a me blog posty thing that was shared for Frigga, and I've never seen one before, and I was like, there we go then. And I actually shared it to the Starry-Eyed Facebook page, and I was like, guess what, we know what we're doing today. Frigga, lady, all-seer, all-knower, weird weaver, direct me upon my path as it takes shape before me. Grant me your favour if I am deemed worthy of it. So I completely forgot at the beginning of the video to say that. There you go, I have remembered. So then we have one of the orbs. So again, we have the crown, this lovely stormy blue. I was reading about how she often appears in sort of shades of sky colours depending on her mood. She can go from kind of a white colour to sort of darker greys, and I had this lovely image of her being half armoured, but it was very, very silver plated over the top, and then more of a loose flowing gown, and it kind of represented her energies between like a strategic or I don't want to say a military strategist, but she kind of would be more of a council element perhaps, but you know, if she had to defend those she loved, she would. So I went with that colour with here, and then hopefully you can see the reflection is pretty strong, but hopefully you can get a good, and we've got lots of sort of dream weaver elements in here, and energies of seeing the future and divining the future. So then there is a votive, and interestingly enough here you've got what almost looks like her staff of spell weaving and destiny weaving. I thought that was really cool. That's in the wax. And the colour, I hope you can see the colour as well. It kind of elevates up, so you've got a diffusion of certain colour throughout, and then the top is very there's the sparkly, there's the shimmy, it's there, I promise. I know the lady loves the shimmy, like I love the shimmy. We all love the shimmy, shimmy. And last but not least is the Spell Cauldron, again with this beautiful pale blue. I thought that it worked quite well in, feels kind of sky-like to me, and it's between kind of earth and sky for me is where her energy resides, so I wanted to incorporate both of those, and then you can see hopefully all the shimmy shimmy, there's the shimmy shimmy. And I did want to say, although I felt that she was separate from Freyja, because there are some similarities, I wanted to incorporate a little bit of a stylistic asymmetry, I guess, a similarity but not the same, in that the way that some of the colours have been utilised in the cauldron in particular has a similar vein. So the colours aren't the same, but the way that they've been applied is similar to the candle for Freyja. So they have a similarity but not the same. Okay, so I hope you like them, and that's it for this video about experiencing the goddess Frigga, and many blessings.